Welcome to Natural Health Talk, your go-to podcast for all things related to holistic wellness, natural remedies, and living a balanced, healthy lifestyle. Be sure to visit our sponsor, topnaturalhealth.com, for special promo code pricing on all of the products mentioned in our episodes.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're getting smooth, like really smooth, and diving into the world of hair growth inhibitors.
Sounds slippery.
It does, doesn't it? But first things first, before we even think about banishing those pesky hairs, we gotta understand the enemy, right? We gotta know how hair growth actually works.
Absolutely. It's like trying to solve a puzzle without knowing what the picture's supposed to be.
Exactly. So let's break it down, shall we? Hair growth 101. Hit it.
Okay, so each hair on your body, and I do mean each and every single one, is on its own individual growth journey.
No kidding. They couldn't coordinate a little better.
Nope. And that journey, my friend, has 3 phases: anagen, catagen, and telogen.
Anagen, catagen, telogen. Those sound like names of Greek gods or something.
Maybe they should be. There's certainly powerful forces in the hair growth universe.
All right, break it down for me. What's anagen all about?
Anagen is where the action's at. It's the active growth phase, the time when those hair follicles are working overtime. Imagine a tiny little factory at the base of each hair, churning out new cells like crazy.
Those are some busy factories.
You bet. They're pushing that hair shaft longer and longer, reaching for the sky, or at least the surface of your skin.
So how long can this anagen party go on for?
It varies from person to person and even hair to hair, but it can last anywhere from a few weeks to a whopping several years. That's why some people can grow their hair super long, while others struggle to get past a certain length.
Fascinating. So once those hair factories have had enough, what happens next? Is it catagen time?
You got it. Catagen is a much shorter phase, kind of like a coffee break for those hard-working hair follicles. It's a time for transition.
Transition to what? What happens during catagen?
Well, during catagen, things start to wind down. The hair follicle shrinks a bit, and the hair shaft detaches from its blood supply. Basically, it's getting ready to peace out.
Sounds kind of sad for the hair.
Don't feel too bad. This just paves the way for the grand finale telogen.
Telogen. The final countdown. So what goes down in telogen?
Telogen is the resting phase. The hair isn't actively growing anymore. It's just chilling out in the follicle, waiting for its time to shed.
Ah, so that's when we find those stragglers on our sweaters, the telogen crew.
Precisely. Now, this resting phase is where things get super interesting with those hair growth inhibitors we were talking about.
Yeah.
But we'll save that juicy bit for later.
You're killing me. Okay, so we've got our 3 phases: anagen, the growth spurt, catagen, the chill out session, and telogen, the resting phase.
You've got it.
So why is it so important to understand this whole hair growth cycle anyway?
Because if you want to effectively manage unwanted hair, whether it's through traditional methods or these newfangled inhibitors, you need to know what you're dealing with.
Makes total sense. You wouldn't walk into a battle without knowing your opponent's weaknesses, right?
Exactly. And understanding the hair growth cycle gives you a major strategic advantage in this epic battle for smooth skin.
Okay, so we've got our hair growth 101 certificates officially stamped, but I think it's time to address the elephant in the room.
You think there are elephants hiding in our hair follicles?
Well, not literally. I'm talking about the never-ending battle against unwanted hair. Let's face it, we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. It's a struggle as old as time itself.
And over the centuries, or maybe not centuries, but, a long time, we've come up with some pretty creative ways to deal with it.
Oh, yeah. We've got a whole arsenal of hair removal weapons at our disposal these days.
From the good old-fashioned razor to those high-tech lasers, it's like a constant arms race against our own bodies.
It's true. But I guess the first question is, where do you even start?
Well, I think we've all had our first encounter with shaving, right? It's like a rite of passage.
For sure. It's quick, it's easy, and it's relatively painless.
Keyword, relatively. Because let's be honest, razor burn is no joke.
And ingrown hairs, don't even get me started on those little devils.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Shaving, it's a love-hate relationship, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And the problem with shaving is that you're only cutting the hair at the surface. So it's like giving those hair follicles a little trim. They're just going to come back stronger.
So not a long-term solution then?
Nope. And because you're creating a sharp edge on the hair shaft, it can get trapped under the skin more easily, which leads to those lovely ingrown hairs we were talking about.
Right. So maybe not the smoothest move, so to speak. So what about waxing? That seems to be a popular choice.
Waxing can definitely be more effective than shaving because you're removing the hair from the root, so you're looking at smoother skin for a couple of weeks. not just a couple of days.
Okay, that sounds promising, but what about the pain factor?
Yeah, that's the catch. It can be a bit ouchy.
A bit. I've heard horror stories.
It depends on your pain tolerance, of course, and the skill of the esthetician. But yeah, it can be a little intense. And just like with shaving, there's still that risk of ingrown hairs, especially if you're not careful with exfoliation.
Okay, so waxing. It's a trade-off. Smoother skin for a while, but with the potential for some pain and maybe a few ingrown hairs lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. And then we have our dear friend, the depilatory cream.
Oh yes, hair removal creams. Always a bit of a mystery to me, to be honest.
They can seem a bit like magic,
Yeah.
right? But basically, they work by dissolving the hair at the surface of the skin.
So kind of like chemical haircut.
Pretty much. They can be a gentler option for people with sensitive skin who find waxing too harsh.
But I bet the results don't last as long as waxing, right?
You know it. It's similar to shaving in that you're only removing the hair at the surface, so regrowth is pretty quick. Plus, there's always that risk of skin irritation or allergies to the chemicals in the creams. So that's always a good idea to do a patch test before you slather it all over.
Right, safety first. So we've got shaving, waxing, and depilatories. But what about the more high-tech options like laser hair removal? That seems to be all the rage these days.
Laser hair removal is definitely a game changer in the world of hair removal. It's one of the few methods that can actually provide long-term hair reduction.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about how it works.
So it uses highly concentrated light to target the pigment in the hair follicle. This damages the follicle and inhibits its ability to grow new hair.
Sounds intense and expensive.
It can be, yeah. It usually requires multiple sessions, and the costs can add up, especially if you're treating larger areas.
So there are definitely some things to consider, so let me guess. Even with the gold standard of laser hair removal, there are still some downsides. Nothing's perfect, huh?
You got it.
No.
It's not always effective for everyone, especially those with lighter hair colors or darker skin tones. And there's always a risk of side effects, like pigmentation changes or scarring, although those are rare.
Right. Always important to weigh the risks and benefits. It seems like there's no one-size-fits-all solution to this whole hair removal dilemma, is there?
Not really. But that's where hair growth inhibitors come in. They offer a totally different approach to the problem. They might just be the game changer we've all been waiting for.
Okay, you've got my attention. Hair growth inhibitors. They sound almost too good to be true. Like, are we talking about actually stopping hair before it even has a chance to grow?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's a completely different approach from the hair removal methods we talked about earlier. We're not talking about yanking it out, dissolving it, or zapping it away. We're talking about getting down to the cellular level and disrupting the hair growth cycle from the inside out.
Okay, now you're just messing with me, right? How is that even possible?
Well, remember how we talked about those 3 phases of hair growth? Anagen, catagen, telogen.
Yeah, the growth spurt, the chill-out session, and the long nap.
Exactly. Well, hair growth inhibitors, they're all about extending that long nap, that telogen phase.
So instead of constantly battling those hairs that have already sprouted up, we're basically telling those hair follicles to hit the snooze button for as long as possible.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm all for a good long nap, but how do these inhibitors actually work their magic?
It all comes down to enzymes, those little protein machines that are responsible for all sorts of processes in our bodies.
Okay, keep going. You've piqued my interest.
Well, certain enzymes are essential for building the proteins that make up your hair shaft. Think of them as the construction workers in your hair follicles.
Gotcha. Tiny little hard hats and everything.
You got it. And hair growth inhibitors, they're like putting up those little orange road-closed signs around the construction site.
So those little construction workers or enzymes get shut down before they can even start building more hair.
Exactly. And with those enzymes out of commission, the hair follicle can't produce new hair effectively, or at least not as quickly.
Genius. It's like outsmarting those hair follicles.
It's a fascinating area of research, and there's still a lot to learn. But the potential is huge.
And we actually came across a product that's already on the market, the Stop Grow Hair Growth Inhibitor.
Catchy name, right? It just rolls right off the tongue.
It does. So is this the real deal? Is this the holy grail of smooth skin we've all been waiting for?
Well, it's important to remember that everyone's hair and skin are different. What works wonders for one person might not be as effective for another. It's about finding what works best for you and being patient.
That makes sense. No 2 heads of hair are created equal, but it's still super promising to think about managing unwanted hair in a whole new way. So if someone's interested in trying a hair growth inhibitor, what should they do?
Well, I always recommend talking to your dermatologist first. They can help you weigh the potential benefits and risks and figure out if it's the right choice for you.
Solid advice. And hey, while we're on the topic of hair growth, I wanted to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the connection between our lifestyle choices and how our hair behaves.
It's so easy to forget that it's not just about what we're putting on our bodies, but what we're putting in them, too. Our diet, our stress levels, our overall health, it all plays a role.
So spill the tea. What can we do from the inside out to support, well, I guess I shouldn't say healthy hair growth if we're aiming for less hair. How about managing hair growth?
I like it. Managing hair growth it is. And one of the most important factors is, drum roll please, nutrition.
I knew it. So what should we be eating or not eating?
Well, remember how your hair is mostly made up of protein. Getting enough protein in your diet is essential for hair growth. But if you're trying to manage hair growth, you don't want to overload on protein. It's all about balance.
Makes sense. What else can impact hair growth? I swear stress makes my hair fall out.
You're not imagining things. Stress can definitely throw your hair growth cycle out of whack. When we're stressed, our bodies produce cortisol, which can actually shrink hair follicles and lead to more shedding.
So managing stress is good for our mental health and our smooth skin goals. It's a win-win.
Exactly. Exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, those can all help lower those stress levels.
It's amazing how everything is connected, isn't it?
It really is. It's all about taking a holistic approach to our health and well-being and remembering that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Well said. And that about wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of hair growth inhibitors. We've gone from those ancient hair removal battles with the trusty razor to high-tech lasers, and now we've even explored the possibility of outsmarting our hair follicles at the cellular level.
Who knows what amazing innovations the future holds?
That's right. Maybe one day we'll all be saying bye-bye to unwanted hair for good. But until then, keep experimenting, find what works for you, and embrace your journey to smooth, confident skin.
Hear, hear.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Until next time.
From all of us here at Natural Health Talk, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and don't forget to visit our sponsor, topnaturalhealth.com, for special promo code pricing on all of the products mentioned in this episode.